The next step in the process is, I mean, first, obviously, to make a decision that this is something that you want to do. It is a commitment, so the first step is to make sure that this is right for you and that you're committed to it. So if you are, assuming that you're happy with everything you've heard, then really the next step after that is to make sure that you can proceed. So probably the biggest thing that determines when somebody is ready to start the process is the availability of the investment funds. So it's not at all uncommon that we have people come to us and say, I want to do this, and I want you to go ahead and get going on looking at businesses. They may ask us to make things available to them so that they can look at businesses for sale. And really, the first thing that we ask people is, are your investment funds ready? Are your funds ready to be able to move forward, assuming that we find the business? And a lot of times the answer at that point is no, that the investment funds are tied up in a house sale or a business sale, so the person has to, in some way, make those funds available. And what we tell people at that point is, well, you really shouldn't start the process until those funds are actually available and ready. And there's really a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that business sellers don't want to wait to sell a business. Obviously, if they've listed their business for sale, they are ready to go. So they're ready to sell it today. So we're already going to be asking them to, if we want to buy their business to get an E2 visa, we're already going to be asking them to make that closing contingent upon the visa issuance, which is usually going to tie up that business in contract and in escrow for a couple of months while that visa process is going. So we're already asking for that, but to approach business sellers and tell them, yes, this is the business we want to buy, but we can't do anything yet because we don't have any funds available, they're not going to wait for that. Secondly, in order to actually make a visa petition, in order to submit the E2 visa case, we have to be able to show that the funds to make the business purchase are committed to escrow. So we can't go to contract on a business and submit a visa case without those purchase funds being all in escrow, committed to close the deal when the visa is issued. So the way the visa regulations are is that the only real contingency that can be left at the time that the visa case is approved or the time that it's submitted to the business purchase being done is the visa case or is the visa being approved. So really looking at businesses or starting the process of trying to find the business that's going to work for you really doesn't make sense until those investment funds are available. The other thing that I tell people generally is that while there are just a tremendous number of businesses that are out there for sale, if you look at different sites and talk to brokers, I mean, it seems that there are just thousands of businesses available for sale. In reality, there really are not a tremendous number of good qualifying businesses for sale. So as we've talked about, several times today, kind of where the big value that we bring to the table is in narrowing down that thousands of businesses, narrowing that down into, well, what are the businesses that actually could work and that are actually something that somebody should even consider buying. And that pool of businesses is much smaller. So even though it looks like there's thousands of businesses for sale, in reality, there's a small number that are things that we should even, or you should even be considering. So given that fact that there are really only a small number out of this giant pool that are really something that anybody should be considering doing something with, those things sell. So good businesses don't stay on the market for a long, long time. So again, to get somebody to start looking at businesses today when they're waiting for a house to sell and those funds may not be available for 6 months, there's really no point, because 6 months from now, the good businesses that are available today are not going to be out there anymore 6 months from now. So the first step really in the process is making the decision that, yeah, you're ready to do something. The second step is looking at that timing and saying, okay, when are my funds going to be available? If I'm selling a house, or if I'm taking a redundancy payment, or when is that happening, and when are those funds going to be available? That's going to decide then, okay, what is the time that we start looking at businesses? Because again, when we find the right business, we need to be able to proceed. We need to be able to go to contract. We need to be able to commit the funds to escrow, and then submit the visa case in a relatively short time, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month max. That whole process of going from getting the business under contract, finishing due diligence, and submitting the visa case, that's got to happen in kind of that tight window, or else, most sellers are not going to wait that long. So that's really the second part. And then the last thing I would say, as far as advice that I would give, or the next step, is decide who you're going to use. Decide if you're going to use us, or if you're going to use someone else, or if you're going to use multiple people. Make a decision who you're going to use and stick with them, and follow their program, because there really is excuse me, a tremendous amount of misinformation out there. There's I guess more than one way to skin a cat also. I mean, some people do things one way and some people do it another way. You need to decide whether our way is right for you. And if it is, then you need to follow our program.